Welcome back, everybody who's still tuning in. We're here. This is Burn Pit Part 4, and this is going to be page 13. I got my first picture here. Let's save that. And file open as layers. This part, I guess if you've been following regularly, you probably know, I like to complain how everything goes slow. Seems to go through slow. And this part has just been a dog for me. Well, not really the part itself. You want to go into excuse hour here. New layer. Actually, I should um, I should get the next picture going first, but I think sleep was messed up. I think the first week, you kind of get it's like, oh my god, it's not that I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't getting enough sleep, and it just ends up wearing on you. So where I think I had a couple of days where it's just like had a headache from it all. Just couldn't really do anything but lie down and like not be able to go to sleep. uh, Cancel. What am I doing? Did I do that right? Yeah, okay, I got my border. It's kind of like when you take a nap. It's kind of like when you take a nap, and then when it comes time to sleep, you can't sleep because you're too awake. It's kind of what it is. It's like let's renumber this one to 39. And then for some reason, I got it in my head to try and mess with an old game, but it doesn't. It's like you're trying to what am I doing here? Uh, no, not that one. Let's take this one. But like when Windows made the switch to Windows 10, a lot of stuff that was just compatible for generation after generation is no longer compatible. So it's like, uh, you kind of get caught up in the let's try and find a solution, that sort of thing. It's like, oh my god, um, it's what was I gonna have to say? My bank account went down. Ah, okay. All the stuff I got for the yard cost more than I expected. Bank account went down faster than I hoped. Let's see if I can't get this without it. There we go. You know what, you. Been a very, suffice it to say, it's been a very non-productive 2 weeks. Oh my god. I think too, I'm already trying to think ahead to I need another one. Shrimp of the House 10. And I really, like, at this point, have no idea what I'm going to do for the story itself. Because what I wanted to do coming off Showtime, let's see, is the follow up, is the next story would have been, or what I was thinking was the next story was going to be, the premise was going to be Liz's estranged brother shows up on the doorstep, kind of wanting to reconcile and have a relationship again. But as they sit when they sit down and try and talk about it, and try and talk about it. Let me see this. It just keeps devolving into the same sort of fight and arguments that drove them apart ages ago in the first place. And from the sidelines, Allison is kind of watching it, and even though she's sort of had the attitude problem in the last quote unquote year in their time, and has been sort of like increasingly antagonistic with her parents, she sort of doesn't like it, and the idea is when Liz is out of the room or something, when whatever the contrived reason is, when when her uncle is alone, she takes the shrinker, which she's still hiding, and uses it on him to punish him for hurting her mother. And the idea would be like eventually she would accidentally shrink Liz too, and it's sort of the joint adventure would sort of force the two of them to talk and come to some degree of reconciliation. Uh, but problem, and it's sort of like the logical next story because it's like something it's like something that should happen while she still has the controller and while nobody else, like except for Jackson, knows she has it. So it's still that like unaware as to what's going on kind of thing, whatever you want to call it. But I'm thinking, you know what? I can do another bubble here. Control C. File. Let's see. Edit. Paste as new layer. But I'm kind of thinking, because this is Shrimp of the House 10, this is the 10th volume, so to speak. I sort of want to do maybe something a little more monumental. I feel like I should be doing like some sort of a special story tomorrow, because it's number 10. Let's see. Yeah, let's go with food and stuff. Um, Okay, so let's. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this. No, so let's see if we can't get it to it. Control Z. Okay, so we'll just have to go with that, with 5 lines. But it's the idea, like, if I do that, then somehow it's got to be a story that lets Allison keep the size changer and keeps everyone else from finding out about it. And I can't really come up with a good idea. So, one possibility I'm floating around that I really can't coalesce any kind of a solid story with is that somebody is telling a story, and it's that story playing out sort of on the page with with the regular cast in the roles of the characters, the story within a story characters, so that it's like the story that's playing out isn't quote unquote canon, but it's the storytelling is what's canon. And I just can't come up with anything to go into that format. I can't come up with like a story that could be done with that with like a story to do here. Um, and I think brainstorming gave me an idea for one possibly down the line. Maybe I think a story tentatively called Recall, where the premise is that they find out that there's a recall on the on the size changing device, and and like they and it's like David kind of fears it's like a bad recall, and everybody kind of feeds into it, and somebody ends up using the size changer without him knowing to make him think that his fears came true. And that like the unforeseen side effects that he thought that they were recalling came true, when like really like Well, I don't know. I don't want to say it because it'll end up being like the big twist of the series, of the story. But so I won't like kind of say. But the idea is like it's worse than it is. The idea is that he's he makes it out, and it's sort of like his mind gets carried away and they play into it, and he's got to, which might be fun because it's like at this point in the series, like there's no real surprise or mystery to the characters when it happens at this point. So if he thinks his shrinking is like outside the normal operation of the device, they'll kind of put a little bit of worry into the character. Mm-hmm. And I think also because I'm thinking of this, like if you've seen the previous video that I cut up into two parts, I think I talked about this issue zero idea to um, sort of precede and lead into whatever Shrimp of the House X becomes, where I sort of lay out a direction for the store for the series. And it's kind of gotten me thinking that like it could give me some ideas that let me think, how do I put this? I think it's sort of giving me one idea that, and this is a loose idea, which is probably why I'm having a hard time sort of putting it to words right now. Let's grab you. 34. But it's sort of a premise. The idea is, it's sort of giving me the idea of doing a premise where um, maybe Liz gets a little too close to a guy without actually crossing into affair territory. Maybe like not far enough to, not far enough to be considered an affair, but far enough to make David uncomfortable, annoyed, jealous, that sort of thing. And this is just like brainstorming here, so don't take it that this will happen. But I think it's the idea is this is um, edit paste as this guy sort of comes into Liz's life, and David doesn't like it. Invert. And sooner or later here, I'm going to be I'll be cutting out or trimming between while waiting for these pictures, because I don't really have, because it's like I don't think I have like that much to talk about, and it's kind of boring sitting here watching these pictures render for you guys. So just a heads up. This won't, hopefully this won't be the 2 hour visual that the last video was. Um, it's currently used. Why does it look like I'm using more sliders than this? Oh well. Let's see. You. Let's go with something I don't normally use. I'm trying to think here. How about that way? Right. And let's go bottom down. Is that what I want to do? Zoom on. Yeah. Okay. Into that one. Let's see. I will Control C on that box. But also, I think at the end, like if you manage to survive the whole 2 hours and catch to the end where I spontaneously was showing you characters that I want to do something with. Like at the same time, I've been brainstorming for Shrimp in the House. Let's see. Now, what the heck is this doctor's name? Let's. I want to say it's Palmer. It's been so long since. No characters. Dr. Palmer. Yep, I was right. Okay. Have you guys looked at yourself lately? The next time you visit Dr. Palmer, the VA. Send you disability reading. Now let's go bye bye. Okay. Yeah, because there's a subplot. There's a subplot that I got to get back to that I want to get. Not that I have to. It's not a subplot I've forgotten about. Like if I put it that way, it was always one that like was planted in the early on and was going to come up late in the series in the story. But this will sort of bring us back to the subplot of that they have to find work, that they can't sit at home lifting weights and drinking beers and chit chatting and reliving the good old days forever. So this is the point at which they've got to start thinking about what they want to do at work or for work, and that's given me kind of an interesting subplot idea. Not idea, but well, it's a subplot that I've decided, an idea that I've decided way back when to use. So I think file. Let's save that. And okay, so I got a picture here. Save that. Let's go file, open as layers, and burn pit U. Scale will be 33. We'll cut that and edit it. Paste as new layer. Save. Let's see. So what was I talking about 10 minutes ago or whatever it was? Um, so yeah, he's not looking up. Sort of found myself, even though that, uh, even though that particular house isn't finished, I took the house I had mocked up um, early on with this story. I think in the yeah, probably about when I was starting part two in this story. I kind of taken that one and decorated one of the bedrooms to play around with the characters. So now I've got a mostly decorated bedroom, and sort of trying to finalize the exact scenario. And at the same time, wondering if I shouldn't skip making it another installment in the short tales and make it sort of a and turn it into a standalone story, sort of like in the 3-part um, range, like a 75-page story. Nothing major, but something a little longer than, I don't know though. This idea, if they don't find out we're no longer disabled, we can still collect our disability. I like the ethos. Oh, come on. This isn't going to let me do it right. There we go. Yay. Um, okay, cool. Ah, shoot. It's going to overlap too much. Okay. Okay. So I guess we'll do the same thing we did. That look good? That looks good, I guess. And I think what I want to do with this one, I think lengthwise, if you're looking for some idea of how long this is going to go, this story is going to go, I should say. I didn't really have a set idea in mind. It was more of those, let's see how it goes. But I think kind of starting this part, this really feels like a 6-part story. Although it's possible, and I'm not really looking to do it, but it's possible it could go to 7 parts. 175 pages. Because it's like sort of, it's what it is like we've seen him hit rock bottom in the first part. The second part is just him in the gym. We sort of get like, it's almost just like a gratuitous muscle growth kind of sequence. Then he's hooking up with, he's tracking down and bringing his former friends into his life in the third part, and sort of the, and it's like, while we're still like trying to fit in the, excuse me, the sequences, the gratuitous muscle shots and the growth stuff and all that. It's like the aspects I still want to deal with is we, it's like I want to do a story around, so like a sub story here around these guys. Um, Sort of finding work, so to speak. Um, well, actually, actually, I'm not spoiling. I'm not going to be spoiling anything here since this it'll be in this part anyway. And but so it's the idea is to revisit the company with the one jerk who is behind the desk, and the idea is this whole idea is sort of this sub story where Roger proposes, and then sort of over time it plays out that they're going to engage in sort of a hostile takeover of the company. Because it's already, it's already obvious that that like nobody in the area is going to hire them. And I think what he's gonna spell out just as an excuse for the hostile takeover is that um, a lot of the it's this whole logic. A lot of the ideas that veterans sort of come up with for veteran founded companies usually involve like T-shirts and other like just gimmicky merchandise. And like in the grand scheme of things, there's only so much of that stuff you can put out before like the market becomes oversaturated. And I think in this stupid political climate we're in now, it seems like I think it's like the wind is being sucked out of like the veterans getting attention um, for these kind of projects. Plus, there seems to be, it feels like there's this subtle growing backlash against veterans that kind of coincides with sort of these white middle class, like 20 somethings who are like taking over the Black Lives Matter movement just to go out and tear shit up and destroy everything. Yeah, it's like whatever you want to call them, like Antifa or whatever, the anarchists. That sort, it's like this sort of group. I think the people that even like closely aligned to it, just are sort of sucking the wind out of this. It's I think veterans were getting sort of a backlash from sort of this segment of society before everything blew up in the last few months. But it doesn't get reported because nobody cares about veterans. So, until it becomes like a feel good story for a fluff piece on the news, but so I think the idea is like he's gonna paint. It's like open his layers. So I think the idea is like he's going to. I think what I'm getting at is he's going to toss out the idea of them starting something on their own because that's like what all their because that's like what they'll end up doing or falling back on is like just creating veteran themed t-shirt designs on Cafe Press or whatever some of the other like Teespring or like some of the other ones. And they kind of need something a little better than that. So like the easiest thing is to take over a company that's already making money, that's already got um, customers, it's already generating revenue. And what I'm going to paint out, actually, I've already set it up in story. What he's going to explain is that this is a small enough company that they could conceivably pool what little resources they have to buy up enough stock. Let's see, invert, shrink, to force a hostile takeover. So I think like how it's going to play out is it's not that they're going to go out and and buy this company. It's going to be like a slow process that unfolds in the background after he proposes it. because it's just going to be a lot of sort of financial maneuvering that's not going to be that's not like very interesting to just devote massive chunks of the story to. Um, let's see. Oh, I didn't intend to have the black guy making the anti-handout comment here. I.e., like the comment that's going to be made here is like how they're supposed to be better than that. The idea is you kind of like pointing out that like what he's proposing is basically fraud. We're scamming the system. We're looking for free money, and so like his comment is, "Come on, guys, we're better than that." Um, and since it's like the stereotype is that black people are the ones on welfare and all those stupid programs, like it's kind of, it almost seems, it could come across that like I'm intentionally having the black guy make the comment against it, and it's just, it's just kind of coincidental here because he's like the character that hasn't really said anything except for Erica, but it just happens that way. It's just a happy coincidence. And that's too part of the reason why I'm always afraid of like doing minority characters. It's like part of it is not being a minority myself. Like you don't want to end up like writing the black guy as if he's just a white guy in black skin, that sort of thing. But on the other hand, like you tend to overthink some of the situations or some of the dialogue. Like, oh God, if I have the black guy saying this, it's going to be stereotype. Or, if I have the black guy saying that, it's going to be like overly, I don't know what you want to call it, so social justice warrior kind of thing. Like, oh, come on, that's something the white guy would say. You're kidding, it's the black guy. It's like you start overthinking it is the point. And it's like, oh my God, that's what I'm doing here. Like, there's no scheme or intent with him making this. It's just kind of like gets me overthink. There we go. Oops, there we go. And we'll italicize that. But also primarily because I didn't, the other reason that there's a lack of diversity is because I just don't have a lot of um, non-white skins, so to speak, to put on the for characters. I've been kind of I've been picking up a few in the past year. To bring a little bit of diversity to the canvas. It's like, it's like not like I want to force somebody into a situation. I know the idea of like diversifying is that sometimes these characters seem forced into a situation they wouldn't normally be in, or one that kind of raises eyebrows. But it's like here, given these guys are military, the military is an extremely diverse outfit right now, or maybe not right now, but it's been for a while. So it's this story was sort of a natural fit to squeeze in some non-white main characters. File save. Oh my god. And this is another one. This is going to take forever, so I'll cut out here. Okay, so we've got Ray here. We're going to save him and open his lair. Hmm. Um. Okay. Size. And we will edit paste as. Sort of another idea that let's see, select invert shrink that I've been I can't really say brainstorming, but it's an idea that's popped into my head. Okay, I was afraid. Undo. Yeah, I kind of zoned off on that one, but one idea that's popped into my head too is of doing a Christmas themed story. Again, I haven't really like thought it out or anything, and I think unfortunately I'd have to um, get onto it soon if it was something I wanted to, if I wanted to do it, it'd have to be timed to come out for Christmas, so it'd have to be like go into production soon. I'm not sure it would make it, but what am I looking for? You side to side this way. So of course, I guess the idea would be it'd be like a play on the like the stripper and the cake thing. It's instead it would be like they tricked David down and put him in a box to give him to their mom for Christmas. Let's see. Kids, have you seen your father? No. I don't know where he went. Let's see. There we go. But it's kind of good right now because my mind is all over the place with ideas. I definitely need more ideas because I'm reaching the point where where I've sort of exhausted everything that's in my head. So I really need to kind of restock the idea closet there. Um, and I have to say I think and the idea that I'm ADD here with conversation topics, going back to I think my no-named roommates, so to speak, that I'm like looking to create a story for. What's sort of gotten me thinking that it should be like a 75-page project instead of like a 25, 24-page short tale. I was reading like on forum or some forum or some like site where people post their stories. I was reading one where I think they basically took um, Rowan McBride's "Want Me" and sort of and wrote their own story, wrote their own sort of version of it. and like and it's like it could have been interesting, but it's like for me, I sort of like the exploration aspect of this a lot. I think a lot more than you tend to see. So it's it's like with each stage of the size change, like I wanted to see like more of the character sort of like interacting with his environment at the new size. I wanted to see like more of him like having to face the world at, at a smaller size, that sort of thing. And it just kind of glossed over that. So I'm sitting there thinking like that might be what like Untitled Roommate Project, whatever. That might be like what I should do with Untitled Roommate Project is draw it out and have them playing with the set a little more than I usually do. Oh my god. Even though I'm in a talking head. Oops. What am I doing? I'm sort of just messing around here while waiting, but and not even realizing what I'm doing. But and too, like frequently I'll going off onto a new tangent here as if you needed more. I'm like often when I'm like surfing sort of the charts on Amazon and checking out the kind of books I'm competing with on Amazon. I go into a lot of I'll do a lot of the look insides on the other comics and graphic novels that are sort of up alongside mine. And I popped open one for one of those Minecraft books. Yeah, I'm not sure who the author is. He's got a ton of these like comics that are done through Minecraft. If you go on the Amazon charts under the graphic novels everyday life category, you'll see them. You can't miss them because he's doing well enough to stay at the top of the charts. So, or near the top of the charts, however you want to describe it. But like I popped one open, and like, I think right from the beginning, like the particular one I opened up was on this talking head thing that I often see. So I don't. So it's like if he's doing a little better than I am, I don't feel bad about. I no longer feel bad about like these pages and pages of talking heads and expressions and. Oh my god. Um, and as you can tell where it really bothers me because that's when I will just sort of do like a half page or full page image to get all the dialogue and just fill it with dialogue. It's like a lot of like I think earlier in this page where it was Roger and Erica in the bedroom talking. It's the idea is like not you just it's not that you get sick of making image after image of just expressions, but it's more of sometimes it doesn't really add anything to just keep doing it, so you throw up the two people and just have the conversation play out over a single image. If like if unlike here where I've got what, five characters going back and forth, and they're seated too far away to do those kind of shots. Okay, I think now that we're past the hair, it's gonna render. It'll render faster. So this should. If you, I don't know if you can see it on YouTube on the YouTube video because it does kind of tend to ruin the resolution, but you can see you can watch it rendering the. There it goes. We, you can watch it rendering the image. Maybe I can see it. I don't know if you can see it on the YouTube video, but on YouTube, but so this is gonna go quick. Hmm. And I think too, like in the idea of brainstorming, I think another idea I've had in the last couple of days. You can tell I haven't been working on this because I've been because I've got the ideas just like flooding into my head. But another idea in the last couple of days is to sort of maybe play on sort of like this COVID um, mass infection doomsday scenario. I know like in some of these, in some of the micro macro, a lot of the stories um, fall back on the plot device of a widespread virus that just like causes random people to shrink. Um, but I think like the variation, I want to do something, sort of get the idea of instead of like a shrinking virus as your device, the idea is that there's a global pandemics like the COVID, maybe like Kovacs or call it something else, but the idea is you have a global pandemic like that. The idea is that it only affects adults, not the kids are seemingly immune from it for some reason. And I think the premise, and it's sort of like um, and another problem they've got is that the virus mutates rapidly enough to where a vaccine actually can't be developed because the virus mutates before they can even put it into testing. Um, and this is all the backstory. The backstory, it's like not like it's not like I'm going to play out the whole pandemic and the whole research thing. It'll just be kind of glossed over in sort of a quick expository. But the idea is that like only adults are getting it. It's mutating faster than they can put out vaccines for it. And what they found um, is that if they shrink the patient, to a certain size, the virus will be too big to latch on to whatever it latches onto. Let's see. Again, I haven't thought it out too much, but it's sort of like that criticism where, like, well, if they're that small, the air molecules will be too big to breathe. That sort of thing. You kind of gloss that over. But it sort of plays on that. But the idea is that they're not shrunk so small that the air molecules are too big. You're only looking at like maybe a 50% reduction. Like you shrink the adults to half their size, let's say, whatever it is. It's like the virus can't attack them. So the only the only way to defeat the pandemic is to shrink everybody. But because kids are immune, they don't have to shrink the kids. So the premise of the story is the adults are shrunk and they're dealing with kids. It's like one of those, like, they're dealing with the bigger kids who don't want to listen, that sort of thing. Let's save. Flatten and export. JPEG, yes. And let's pop you into book 4. All the stuff I got for the yard cost more than I expected. My bank account went down faster than I hoped. Well, all of us have been chipping in with food and stuff. If you need us to kick in more, that's no problem. Have you guys looked at yourself lately? Next time you visit Dr. Palmer, the VA will rescind your disability rating. You can say bye-bye to your payments soon. Oh, what if we don't make another appointment? We don't have to see Dr. Palmer anytime soon, do we? Come on, man, we're better than that. I think the sergeant is telling us it's time to find jobs. We already tried that. No one wants to hire us for anything worthwhile. If we want to make money, we have to go into business ourselves. For ourselves. I'm going to see if I can't get this I to the next line. So we're going to come back, and let's go Control Z. We'll undo the merge down. Where are you? You. Okay. Good enough. I should bring the... I should bring the V down, but... that's good. Image. Latin, and we will export to page 13. And that is page 13. I hope you got something out of that. I hope that was enjoyable, and I hope it wasn't too long like the last one. Because hopefully I cut out a lot of the dead space. Discard, yes. And I will see you next time, whenever that is.